Welcome back to the Got Her Back podcast.
Hi, boo.
Hey.
What you doing?
How's it going?
Doing good.
What's new with you this week?
See, boss, mom.
Wait,
taken.
whoa. Your shirt says taken.
For this week only.
Oh. You're taking this week.
Yeah, I'm taking this week.
Hmm.
You know, maybe not next week, but this week for sure.
I wish y'all knew all the tea that I know. It's good.
It's some good tea.
I love this Megan. I love dating Megan. I like that you're finally dating like today. Like, yeah, like just,
So
I
fun.
can't wait till you just are like, oh my gosh, like blood socks blown off. Like, well, I can't wait. I'm excited to do this episode because I just feel like it's such a great topic. You know what I'm going to say? Do you know what the topic is?
I do. I feel like I'm probably going to be in the hot seat today.
You do?
Kind of. I mean,
Aww.
You're like in a relationship and I'm over here dating.
Yeah, but these are questions I can
That's
ask myself.
That's true.
Yeah, come on.
Put your butt in
So
the
what
hot
we're
seat.
talking about today is the 5 things that you can ask yourself when you're like trying to decide whether or not this is the relationship for you and like whether it's worth like staying in that relationship. And I find this like super interesting because like, I don't know about you, you can speak for yourself, but like I've been in relationships before where I just knew like they were not the relationship for me. And I knew like deep down in my like my soul, you know? And I wish I would have had like these like 5 like core questions that I could have asked myself because it would have been like, nope. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I was like looking at these and reading these and I was like, this is like very like yes or no, easy questions.
I know. And then I find myself like when you send them to me, I find myself like backpedaling and starting to chit. And I'm like, my counselor comes in my head and like, you're making excuses for them.
Oh, like you were?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yes,
really? That's
yes.
even more interesting.
Yes.
Like to me that you were
probably
doing
why I thought
it.
like I was going to be in the hot seat today because I was like my inner like
your inner anxiousness.
My inner red flag was like going ding 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 ding.
Like, hey, so now we have the questions.
Yeah.
That you got to ask yourself and you're like, okay, like I think this is like potential or like this could be the person.
And let's go with question number 1.
Okay.
If someone told you, are you a lot like your partner, would it be a compliment to you? I wanted to go for you first because I feel like we've talked about this a little bit, but like go for like you and Gabe.
Oh my gosh, yes, I would take it as a compliment. Like I would 1,000% take that as a compliment. He's a great leader. He's accomplished a lot in his life. Like he is like self-driven. Like
but like you guys complement each other so well and you're so much like you have a lot of like similar. So no, you're opposite in some ways.
That what's so funny that I feel like we are very alike, but we also are very different personality types, but we have a lot of core similarities.
Yeah, and similar interests. You know what I mean? So the outsider looking in, I'm like looking at you guys going, okay, he's headstrong like me, so you don't have like 2 drivers. Me and him would like, I was so scared when we went on our first family vacation, but like.
Oh, you were?
Well, I just didn't know because I was like, me and him are both like drivers.
I was a little nervous
but
too.
we sat up in the front and did our thing.
Y'all drove together.
Yeah, we were like, hey, Gabe. I'm like, okay,
y'all like actually drove together.
Yeah,
like y'all were like.
We'd go to the store and I'm like, what do you think about this? And he would do something and I would do something. Like we like yinged and yanged it.
You know why? I think it's because like sometimes when you're a driver like you and him, like you just want to not for a minute. And so I think that was probably nice for him and nice for you because y'all got to like flip flop here and there. But like I would really take it as a compliment. If anybody said like you and him are alike, like if you would have asked me that in my past like marriage, I would have been appalled. Like I would have been like, no, we're not. Like I would be like, no, we're like, if anybody, I would be like, oh my gosh, like we're complete opposites. We're nothing alike. Like I would lead with that. Just so you know, we're nothing alike. You know what I mean? So that's a great question.
know. I feel like the only thing that we had in our past marriages that was like something that complimented is that when we did stuff together, so that me and you had each other for y'all.
We were
the common interest. We'd be like, hey, let's go on vacation with John and Carrie.
So that we could hang out.
Right.
And it's so interesting because like we never did a date night anymore, like for years, that because that just sounded like that was like, it was very awkward if we tried to have a date night. Like it was like a stranger like sitting there, you know what I mean? So I always felt like you were like my safety net. I was like, oh, I get to sit by Megan and I get to talk to Megan, and it was like our date night, really, is what it turned into.
Well, and my ex, he would never, like, we would in group situations, he went on and, you know, like just lit the room up and wanted the attention on him, and he never paid attention to me, where all I wanted was the, you know, just show me some attention, like come hold my hand. And like who I'm dating now, like he's like glued to my hip, and I'm loving that.
You love that.
I love that.
I love it too. Like
take it for this week. We'll see if he makes it to next week.
Come on.
You know what I mean?
Stay tuned.
Yeah.
So yes, that's a good one.
Yeah.
So let's go to question
2.
Number 2. Are you truly fulfilled, or are you just less lonely?
You know, I feel like this one hits home because like the first guy I dated coming out of my marriage, right?
I'm following.
Right. So we didn't spend a lot of time together. He worked a lot. I worked a lot, but I wanted more time with him. When I really like somebody, I like to be up underneath them. But I don't want to be up underneath them like I was in my marriage and it be a roommate situation. You know what I mean? Like I feel like you're just in the room because you feel like it's like that's not fun to me. Like let's have common interests. Like the only thing that me and my ex probably had in common was maybe like going out dancing. Like, you know, I love to go out and listen to music and dance, and he did like to do that too. So that was something that we had as like a common interest. And maybe vacationing together, but not really, because usually vacation became a fight. You know what I mean? And so not really, right?
This is so true.
Yeah,
so you're asking yourself, are you truly fulfilled?
Yeah. Or you just, so I
less
learned
lonely?
In my separation, and I've learned in dating, like to be okay with being by myself. You know what I mean? And like not being like codependent on a situation or codependent on a man. I took a codependency deal with my counselor. And
please do tell.
Girl, like I thought that
when was this?
Probably, I mean, it's probably 6 or 8 months ago. So
really?
Yeah. And I really thought I was going to be more codependent than what in my head I thought I was. You know what I mean? Because I thought that because I couldn't leave my marriage, it was because I was codependent. And it was really more of, so like, it was more of a fear of abandonment. And so my codependency was not as much as what I, you know, like I was clinging on to what I thought it could be because I'd had glimpses and hopes of what it could be. Right. So I think learning to like be by myself, and then like that makes you not so desperate. Right. So then when you do find a person, then you're like, is this nice or is it not nice? Am I yearning to want to be with them more, or am I okay with still seeing them but talking to other people, or you know what I mean? Like, do I want to be up underneath them? Because if it's somebody I really like, I want to be with them all the time. You know what I mean? Like that's what I like to do.
I mean, young Carrie was very codependent, and whenever I first started going to counseling and therapy and things like that, like they had me read the book Codependency No More, because it was me. Like I didn't even know what that meant. But I guess from like past trauma and different things like that, like I was just a very codependent person. Like I did not like to be alone. I always had like groups of people around me. Like I just was never alone. Like, or if I was alone, like my son would be like sleeping with me. Like I was just never ever alone, like with my thoughts. And I think that a lot of that's just like trauma, and you just don't want to like deal with that or hearing anything. Like you're just like, let me keep myself busy and stay with somebody and all that, which is probably how I ended up in, you know, past relationships, because if looking back, it's like totally not my type, or, you know, had nothing in common or anything like that. It was just, I wasn't lonely, you know what I mean? So it was just somebody. It could have been anybody, honestly, which is pretty sad, but Could have been anybody.
See what number 3 is. I got you over here. Are you able to unapologetically show up as yourself, or do you have to show up different for your partner? And I feel like people are like, well, would you date a white guy? And I'm like, oh, he'd have to have some swagger, I think. You know what I mean? Because this hits home with me because I feel like I could not unapologetically be myself. Like if I wanted to listen to rap music or trap music in the car.
Hey, there's white guys that like that.
But there are some that don't. And if you don't know until you're getting, you know what I mean? And so it'd just be awkward. Or like, I love to play dominoes. Like I'm a domino queen and I love to play spades. And those are like, not like, white people would be like, what?
That is not true.
Girl, bye.
That is not true.
I'm talking about old school dominoes. I'm not talking about Mexican train dominoes. That big game where you like match the dots. I'm not talking about. I'm a dominologist over here.
And I know.
Yeah, I came home and I told Taryn, I was like, hey, I went over to his friend's house and I killed all of them in dominoes. He was like, well, that's a white person game. And I'm like, actually it's not. You're just whitewashed because you go to Flower Mountain High School. Like, no, you know what I mean? So I just don't like, there are certain situations where I feel like I could not be myself. And I'm a jokester. You know that. Like, I want to be able to joke with somebody and laugh and giggle and them not like take it seriously. You know what I mean? Like their feelings aren't going to get hurt because I made a joke.
I mean, we talked about this on a couple podcasts ago. Like that's probably like my number one thing that I love about the relationship that I'm in now is I just feel like I can 1,000% be myself, vice versa. We feel the same. And it feels so good with no pressure of like feeling like I have to be something different. Like there are phases in my life I can literally look at photos and times of my life and be like, who is that person? Like, why am I dressed like that? And why am I doing that? Or why am I, you know what I mean? Like, it's just interesting to me because it was almost like I didn't even know myself anymore. Like, because I was trying to be somebody that I wasn't, you know what I mean? I think it's because I didn't ever feel accepted for who I was. So I was trying to shapeshift or something.
I accept every little stinking piece of you.
You are, just and I think that's why people say like now, like, oh, you're so different, or you know, you look great, or you know, what's different, or whatever. I think it's just that I feel okay in my own skin. I don't feel like there's anything wrong with my tattoos. I don't feel like I have to put makeup on, or I don't feel like I have to get all dressed up and act like I'm somebody different. Like there's literally no pressure as to like me trying to feel like I'm trying to impress somebody.
I love that for you, for your life. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, being unapologetically yourself is like, that just feels good. That like lifts a weight.
You've always been that way though. Like, I feel like you have always like kind of like been that person that you own like, who you are.
Yeah, right. If you either love me or
get
hate
what
me.
you get and that is it. And I don't know if you've always been that way, but you've always been that way with me. And that's something that I've always like been inspired by you because you've always been yourself. You don't, and I mean, I when I'm describing you to other people, like I'm like, oh, my best friend, oh my gosh, like you would love her. Like she is like, she does not care like what anybody thinks. Like she does not like, you don't give an air off like with as much success as you've had in your life and the things that you've acquired and like, you know, like you are a successful, very like wealthy woman, but you don't try to have an air or portray that, which is what I love about you. Like
it's just like staying humble, right? Like, and I'm unapologetically like I was raised in a trailer house. We've talked about this.
It's my favorite thing about you.
Yeah, I'm like I'm okay with that. I'm okay, like, and I'm gonna be who I am, and I'm gonna stay humble. It doesn't matter how many dollars I got in my bank account.
That's why people love you though so much because like you own it and it's who you are, and it's not like you're trying to be anything different, which is like
that's a good
what
one,
I love.
because I do love that one.
I do love that one.
Okay,
that's like a really good.
Are you in love? Number 4. Are you in love with who your partner is right now, or are you in love with their good side or the potential of who they could be? Which this is like a crazy one for I think both of us.
This is a great one for anybody. Everybody.
Yeah, like, but it hits home.
Are you in love with the person, honestly, who they are, not who they can be next year or 2 years from now, or, what they're going to grow into, because you're going to make them and you're going to help them and you're going to, you know what I mean?
So here's the crazy thing that you may be surprised. I may take a left turn here on your butt. You may not say what you think I was going to say, because this one is kind of just recently I'm willing to help anybody, right? I'm willing to help anybody around me, including the person that I'm with. He did the work, my ex or whatever, but I helped him create a business over many years, successful and right, in real estate. I'm never going to take that away from him because he had to do that work, right? I did give him a lot of referrals, but he did that work. Where the opposite end is, I feel like he tried to take my success from me and said it was about him when it really wasn't. I had to put in the work just like he had to put in the work for himself, right? So I'm willing to help anybody. And I had to have kind of a come to Jesus with myself, because when I was dating, I was like, I kept doing this square, right? Well, if they don't have this great job and a great car and a great house and all the things, I'm just not even going to look at them. Well, I may be missing out on an amazing person or an amazing man that treats me how I want to be treated, laughs with me, how I want to, lays with me, holds my hand, makes love to me, does all the things that I never had that are important that I wanted. And guess what? We can go get the other things. You know what I mean? So I just started kind of looking at that, yeah, that's a good one. But I'd also feel like you can be superficial there. You know what I mean? You've got to have somebody that has the drive, that wants to do those things. You know what I mean? But I'm not against helping somebody.
Oh, I definitely want to be a rock and supportive and give advice and things like that. I'm totally.
I don't want to do it for them, right?
No,
I don't want to do that.
I don't ever want to be in that situation ever again where I, am looking at potential like that in that way ever again.
Because then if the potential never comes, then you're like, what the heck? You know what I mean? So I feel like here's where you have to learn there is you need to be in love with who they are right now.
And then be okay if they stayed right there.
Right there. And if it gets better, great. And if it doesn't, great. Because, envy and comparison are the worst of all worst. And me having the job and career that I have, it's hard because men will compare themselves to me, or they'll envy, or I just want what she has, or, but they don't realize how much hard work it took to get where I'm at. You know what I mean? It was not an easy road by any means. So I'm okay with helping somebody that may have some potential, or maybe has had, not the best road. If it's made up in other areas, you know what I mean? For me, personally. So that question was kind of hit me both ways. Cause at first I was like, yeah, I don't want to, I read these questions clearly before we sat down together today. And at first, my first inkling was but then I had to circle back and be like, no, Megan, because, I don't want to get into a situation that I was in my marriage. I don't want to do that, but it was in its own right why I don't want to, get into a situation like that again. But I felt like that was different. I kept being in love with the potential of what our marriage could be, or what the affection could be, when it was never that, you know what I mean? And so, or the potential of how much better his business could have been had he worked day in, day out and on a schedule, you know what I mean? And not just when he wanted to. So I think I was in love with that. And so I initially was I don't want to ever do that again. You know what I mean? But then now when I'm dating, on the other side of it, I'm
and I think that it just boils down to you have to know yourself and know what is most important to you. You know what I mean? You have already, been very successful, and you don't feel like you need certain things because you're I got all this already. I want someone to love me and support me and all that. Also don't want someone to use me.
Right.
So there's boundaries and stuff like that are super important, but it just depends on the person and what I think it just goes down to what is super, super important to you. And I'm yep.
What's question 5?
He's winning.
Would you want your child to date someone like your current partner?
So this is the last one, right?
Yeah, it's pretty deep.
Yeah. Would you want your child or your future child to
This one really hit home for me. I'm sure you too, because it's
to be like your current partner. Like, would you be okay? And that is something that came up in therapy for me. That was one of my make or break questions in my past relationship. Was like, that was literally the one that like got me. You know what I mean?
Same.
Like,
it's why I left
there
my
was
marriage.
like, I had many where I was like, I guess, I could do this for a little while longer. I could, but it was just the question when she said, would you be okay with Maddox picking this for her life? No.
No, ma'am.
And then her second question was, would you be okay with Kason showing up this way, in his life, and which was like another spin on it, because you can't just look at the girls. You got to look at both sides. And I was just like, no, I don't want either of these things. These are so important. And they were approaching this age where I was like, this is really, really important to me, because I feel like this is why I got to where I was. It was almost like a full circle like moment for me, like a crossroads. And it was so clear, like just this question. And I think that people need to ask themselves this question, because your children, like she was telling me, your children this is gonna be their baseline. This is all that they're gonna know. They're in your home, and this is all they're gonna compare it to. So are you setting that bar like so low that like they're gonna settle for this, and this is all that they know?
Yeah.
Would you be okay with your daughter doing all this? Or would you be okay with your daughter, being cheated on, working really, really hard, and somebody not being an equal partner with her? Would you be okay with that? Which is crazy, because I'm like, I pound stuff into her head. Like, hey, first time you ever go on a date, like, you don't open that door. You stand right there. Like, you don't, like, I want her standards to be very, very high, and her men, they are. But that was the kicker.
Yeah, it was for me too. Because I'm like, I'm right there with you. I'm like, that was the turning point for me. It was, I can't tell you how many times over the years, in the heat of the moment and fights in my marriage, I'd be like, would you, especially when we had
You
Spencer,
did say that a lot.
I would be like, would you want someone to treat Spencer like this? And his answer to me would always be, well, I'll just pour into her,
like he could overcome that.
Yeah, like he could overcome it. But kids are like a sponge, and they go by what they see. So if they see their mother tolerating, abuse and being talked to bad and being cheated on, and, addiction issues and all the things, and someone not willing to work and someone not willing to help, or all the things that I tolerated for so many years, would I want that for Spencer or for Taryn? Or for Taryn to treat a girl like that? Hell no. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And when I would ask him that, that's when I knew, I'm like, he doesn't get it.
Yeah.
He doesn't get it. Like,
wasn't open-minded enough to like hear that through, or
because
see it clearly.
The problem is that he never thought anything was his fault, and he thought his behavior was okay.
Yeah.
And that the way that he treated me was okay, when it clearly wasn't. Not that I'm perfect, because I'm by far no means perfect, and I was not perfect in my marriage, but I never cheated. I never stepped out on my marriage. I never did any of those things. I was faithful, and I was a good wife. I provided. I did all the things. So, it is what it is. No, I don't want that for my kids. So that was, I think, both of us looking at each other like, So when I read this question, so I was like, well, that's a good one.
These were like, I was
so
like,
good.
whoa, like this is a episode.
Yeah.
This is a whole episode right here.
Totally.
So let's just recap really fast.
Absolutely.
5 questions to ask yourself if you're not sure if you're in the right relationship or not. Number 1.
Got it.
What is number 1? If someone told you that you were a lot like your partner, would it be a compliment for you? Are you truly fulfilled or just less lonely? Are you able to unapologetically show up as yourself, or do you have to show up different for your partner? Are you in love with who your partner is right now, or are you in love with their good side, their potential, and who they could be? And last one is, would you want your child or your future child to date someone like your current partner?
So good.
That's so good.
So good. We want your
it
feedback.
Nails all of them.
I know.
All right there.
And it can go for men or women. We want your feedback. Like, ask yourself these questions. If you're dating, if you're in a serious relationship, if you're in a marriage, you're struggling, you're on the fence. You don't know, like, can I not? Should I keep tolerating this? Should I walk away?
Yeah.
We are testaments to, like, it's not easy. It's not easy. You're going to grieve. You're going to go through all the feels. But look, we're almost 2 years later.
Oh my.
Whoop, girl, we got this.
We got this now. I needed these 5 questions.
We needed them 5
a long time ago. I needed
ago.
these like a long time ago. I needed someone to hand me these. And I think this would be a great tool to give to your children whenever they do start dating. Like, hey, these are some great questions for you. Are they clicking all these boxes, or is there something like that you're ignoring? Is there a red flag that you're missing?
Is there a red flag?
I love it. That was really good. That was good. Thanks.
Get us on all our socials at Got Her Back Podcast. I have a ask. Can you guys please go and subscribe on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube?
Yes.
And then what's your handle?
Inspired by Carrie and Got Her Back Podcast.
Meg's Unfiltered.